Okay guys, so primary Rhino introduction, looking at the interface. So there'll be a link attached to where you find this video where you can download a 90-day version of Rhino. It runs for 90 days. After 90 days you can just no longer save your work. It doesn't mean you can't still practice. Alright, so it'll still continue running and you can use it as a file viewer. There is also a little trick to save items after the demo expires. Anyway, I'll do that a little later. Alright, so when you first fire up Rhino, you're most likely looking at something very similar to what I have here. And we've got to go through, give me one sec, and we're going to go through the different ways that you can interact with Rhino, how the screen works, how the viewports work. So today's lesson, if you're already using Rhino, might be a little boring, but for those of you who've never used it, this will be quite useful. And for the older users, you might pick up a trick or two. Okay, so the interface for Rhino can take its commands in the form of a command typed out onto the command line. The command line is up at the top here, this area here, so you can type out a command. You can find the icon for a command, and or you can find a menu item for the command. So in the case of circle, you can find a circle, there we go, you've got a circle and all the different iterations of a circle, how you did that, any icon that has a little triangle on the bottom of it, hover your mouse over it and click the little triangle. So like that one there has a little triangle under, and this one here has a little triangle under. If you click the triangle, all the different versions of a circle will come up. Okay, so there's a circle from the center, then drawing it outwards, a circle from one point to another, a 3-point circle, etc. Okay. If you want to keep the circle menu on your screen, just click on the top of it and you can bring the whole circle, because if you're using a lot of different circles over and over, you may want to keep that out on your screen. When you close this, you're not deleting the menu, you're just no longer showing it on your screen. Hold one sec. Question?
How to make this one pop out?
Okay, we'll go through that again. Alright, so the little triangle over there, click it. And if you just hover, nothing will happen. Yeah, so left click. So hover your mouse over there, left click. Then it'll pop out with the little circles. See that tiny little menu bar at the top? The one that's just a little grey colour? Click on it and drag.
Left click as well?
Yeah, left click as well. Alright, so that'll bring that out, but we've jumped the gun a little bit. Let's first go to the different ways we can do it. So you can find a circle from here. You can find a circle from the curve circle, and all the same circles you could find in the icon are also available from the top menu. You can also start typing on the command line the word circle. Alright, this is very powerful because even if you don't know what a Rhino tool is, the way that it's been designed is its English name is probably pretty close to what you're looking for. So if you wanted to draw a parabola, for example, and you just started typing parabola, you'll see that it's got a bunch of parabolas. Alright, if you wanted to draw a square, you know, you've got squares, they call it a rectangle. So there Rhino goes and proves me wrong. Alright, a rectangle, and you can draw a rectangle. Or otherwise you can look for a rectangle through the variety of rectangles here. And a square is just a rectangle where all the sides are equal. Alright, so if we go through that again, just so we can move on. You've got the ability to find your tool that you're looking for as an icon, as a menu item, or you can type the text. All right. So the curves that the tools that you're looking at the moment are up in these top tabs. You're looking at the curve tools right now because today's lesson is going to be all about curves. But if you wanted to look at setting tools for setting your viewport, see up the top here, the subdivision tools, tools for working with meshes, render tools. Because there's a lot of icons, I think there's nearly 600 different tools in Rhino. To have them all on screen would be nearly impossible. So they try to group the most common tools up here. That doesn't mean all the tools are up here. There's probably more tools you don't have up here. Okay. So when you fire up Rhino again, you're going to be looking at this viewport. You can find your tools, just for the last time, you can find your tools as an icon. You can find them along the menu, or you can start typing for the tool. That covers where to find the tools. All right. Your viewports, you'll notice that by default you have what's called 4 different viewports. You have a top view, a front view, a right view, and a perspective view. If you just bear with me for a second. I'm going to draw that, and I'm going to put a little T on here, so solid text, just so we can see where we are. Make it a little bit smaller, and we're going to put it on the front. Alright, so in the different viewports, you can see that when you're looking at this from the top, you don't see anything. So, and we're looking from the right hand side, you don't see the word front, but when you look from the front, you see the word front. The perspective viewport, let's go through how you can manipulate the viewports. So in your top viewport, if you left click and move, you're selecting.
Left click.
Okay. If you right click and move, you pan the viewport. Okay. So anything you left click, you're selecting with. If you right click in the top viewport, the front viewport, or the right viewport, in fact any viewport except perspective, if you right click, you're going to pan the viewport, so you're going to move it around. Okay. Your middle mouse button in and out is zoom in, zoom out. That's the same in all viewports. Okay. To make a viewport bigger or smaller, be aware that you have them as tabs along the bottom as of Rhino 7, so you can say that I only want to see the top viewport. Oops. Let's go to top, so after you've maximized it. So to maximize a viewport, double click its name, double left click its name up at the top, alright? So you can maximize a viewport, but you can still then switch through them along the bottom without having to minimize the viewport and then maximize that viewport. Okay, so if you want to quickly jump from the front to the top, you no longer have to do that. You can just use the tabs along the bottom to jump between them. Alright. If you want to see all four again, double click the word perspective, and if things get jumbled up and you don't know where everything is, the way to reset your viewports back to where they were is called forView, is the command. Okay. When you hit that, it'll reset all your viewports to the way it was when Rhino opened. Because it's very easy when you're zooming, you zoom out and then you zoom in and then you can't find the thing anymore because you were looking and where's my stuff and I can't find it. You with me? So forView will reset you back. Okay. And if you want to see the thing as big as possible in any one viewport, you've got a shortcut command, zoom extends all. Shortcut is ZEA. Okay. That'll make everything in your viewport as big as possible in all the viewports. Alright. So going through the viewports again very simply, because it can be frustrating how to rotate something. We're going to get onto the perspective viewport in a minute. So you have a top viewport, front viewport, right viewport. Middle mouse button will zoom it in and out. Right mouse button will pan it. Same for these three viewports. In the perspective viewport, the right mouse button will rotate stuff. It will roll the view. Okay? So left mouse button is still select. But right mouse button in this viewport is to rotate the view. If you want to pan the view in that viewport, you have to also hold the shift key. So you hold the shift key down and the right mouse button, now you can pan. Alright, so right mouse in the perspective viewport rotates it so you can see what you're looking at. Okay, shift key and right pans the perspective viewport. This is the only viewport where that's not the same as all the others. In all the other viewports, right mouse button pans you. Okay. Be aware that if the mouse is confusing or you've got a mouse that has multiple axes, can happen. You can also go to the views, viewport, views. There is a panning thing here somewhere. Set view, standard, viewport, layout, display. There we go. So you can pan any viewport with pan. Now your left mouse button will pan it. Okay. So a lot of people like to pop these out into their own. So if you want to rotate a viewport, like it doesn't help rotating a view here because you're going to change it into perspective. Okay. So all you've done is you've broken your top view. It's no longer looking from the top. Alright. So how do we fix that again? Okay. So if you've accidentally broken your layout and you don't know what you're looking at anymore and things got a little bit confused, forView will return you to where you were. Our command zoom extends all is this little thing here. So you've got that is zoomed out over there, and this one is zoomed off the screen, and this one is missing a little bit in the bottom, and that one is upside down. Right? So there's two things you do. The first one is forView, which will return all your viewports to the correct perspective. And then zoom extends all, ZEA,
Okay.
Alright? Come find this little icon and click it. Alright, so you can go here, you can go here. Notice a little thing about this. When you pop up a menu like this, can you see that there's a left mouse button and a right mouse button command when you hover? You see the little mouse underneath it?
Okay.
So left mouse button will zoom extends in this viewport. Let's do that again. And that's the same for any tool where you see two things. That's only got one command. That's got two commands, one under the left mouse button and one under the right mouse button. But let's keep working with the zoom extends one. All right, so you can see zoom extends, zoom extends all. So if you want to do all the viewports together, you would right click this icon.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So if you right click that icon, all together at one time. If you had this viewport highlighted and you left click that icon, only that viewport will be zoomed. Okay?
Only.
Okay, so again, so over the mouse, two commands, zoom extends under the left mouse button.
Okay.
It's only the viewport you're working on.
All right.
Zoom extends all.
Yeah.
We'll run that command on every viewport.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that's quickly how you can manipulate. Right mouse button to rotate in the perspective viewport. Right mouse button everywhere else to pan the viewport. Middle mouse button in all viewports to zoom in and out. And right mouse button to roll. Okay.
Yes.
So where you find the tools, again, just recapping, you can have them as a menu item, you can have them as an icon layout, and you can manually type out the tool on the command line. Yes. Viewports, by default, you have 4 viewports, but that's not necessarily how you have to work. You can have 6, 10, you can have floating viewports. You can rearrange this interface any way you want, all right? Yes. Any particular viewport you want to see full screen or full UX, double-click its name. Okay. To get out of full screen, double-click its name again. You can do that for any viewport. Okay. All right. So let's go back to why we put a front on here. So, before we do that, let's do shading. All right. So this viewport, as you can see, is wireframe. We call this a wireframe viewport. You're seeing everything defined as a bunch of wires. You're not seeing it shaded. All right. So if you go up to the perspective viewport and you right-click it, you see a whole lot of things inside there. Now, some of these might not be the same on your Rhino, but most of these are the same on everybody's Rhino. All right. So you want to see the item shaded. You want to see what it looks like properly. Go to a shaded viewport. So shaded will color in the item for you, so that you can now see it. Yes. All right, but you will still see the wires. Okay. So you'll see the wires that it's made up out of. Yes. Okay. Rendered viewport will get rid of the wires, and you will just see a rendered view. Okay. In this case, the word front is too deeply in the model, so we're going to move it out just a little bit like that. And we've got to change its color. So I'm going to get to layers in a second, but let's change it for now. And we've got to change its render. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, we'll get back to rendering in a second. In the shaded viewport, when we get to layers in a second, I'll explain what you're looking at there. But let's first finish the viewports. Okay, so you're looking at the front viewport here. Yes. What happens if you wanted to see the back? Okay, yes. All right, so to see the back, you can change what view you're looking at. So again, any viewport, you can right-click and get the same menu that we had over there. It's just how you control that viewport. Okay. So in the front view, if we wanted to look at the back of this item, we can right-click the front viewport, we go to Set View, and you can have any one of these. You can have a front, back, left, bottom, 2-point perspective. You can have multiple. You can have multiple perspective viewports. Okay. Oopsie. And you can look at these things from all kinds of angles.
But they all change to perspective.
Because I set them to perspective. I'll show you how I did that with a little trick in a minute. All right. So I want to go back to where I started. Command is?
Yeah, for view.
For view. All right. Because whoops, I've screwed things up, and I want to get back to where I was. Okay. Command is for view. Okay, so how I did that was any command in Rhino. If you type the command, I'm going to do one over here. Or it doesn't matter how you made the command. I'm going to make a circle here. Yes. And this circle is asking me to select a center point and a radius. I'm going to click it. Yes. You can repeat the command by immediately afterwards pressing enter, or by clicking right button. So if I click the right mouse button now, look at the command line. The last command performed showed up again. So that's handy. So I can quickly, by just using the mouse button, not having to type the command again over and over,
Alright,
I can-
right mouse.
Yep. All right, so
Okay.
that works for every command in Rhino. So in this viewport,
Okay.
remember I changed it to perspective. I right click
Yeah.
the word front, I came over to set view,
Set
and I
view.
set perspective. All right.
Okay.
Have a look at the command line, what's going to happen. So when I click perspective, you'll see that a command actually runs.
Yeah,
A command the same as any Rhino command, which means we
Okay.
can now replicate that command. I come to this viewport, right click, and I run that command again. I come to this viewport, right click,
okay.
and I ran that command again.
Alright, I
Okay.
get it.
So any command you want to run twice, you can right click to get to it. But we're going to
Okay.
continue now going through the viewport and the shading modes and working with the viewport. So I'm going to go, what's the command to reset everything?
For view.
For view. Trust me, this is your friend. You may even
Okay.
want to assign a shortcut key to it.
Okay.
All right, so we want to see this item. And in this case, our world is a little bit difficult because we want to see the back of it. How am I doing that?
I right click.
Right clicking. All right, so we're in a shaded view for all viewports. But I want to work flat on the back of this. I no longer want to see the front of it. All right, so I can right click the word front, I go to set view, and I can pick back.
Yes.
Now I'm looking at the back of that item.
Okay.
So now we can do the same thing. We can go to the solid menu and say we want to make some text, and the text is going to be back. We'll go more in depth into tools afterwards. All right.
Okay.
And I want to draw this here.
Solid text, isn't it?
I got to hang on a second. I need to, because my front, I just want to move this more or less centered over the world for now. All right, now we're going to do solid. How can I rerun the last command? There's another little trick for you to learn here.
Right
So
click.
the last command you ran is right click, but you can find all the commands you've used in this session by going to the command line and right clicking the command line.
All right.
Every command we've used in this session so far is stored in the history buffer on the command line. So I don't have to go find the text thing again. If I've run it just 2 commands before, I can right click there. There's my text command. And I can make the word back. So I'm going to put it down here. I'm going to grab it there, and I'm going to move it to the back, which is out here. All right. We're going to go. We'll talk about the manipulator in a minute, and we're going to move it there so you can see that we're now working. We literally are working in the back. Okay?
Yes.
I'm going to move this onto the red layer. We'll get to layers in a second. So you now got a front and a back of that item.
Yes.
And the same deal, if you don't want to see the right hand side, you want to see the left hand side. Similarly, you can just set your view to the left hand side. All right. When everything's got a little bit wonky, and notice what happened, your view that you changed to front and back and right, and it's all been reset, and you're back where you were when you started.
Alright.
Okay. So again, viewports, you've got 4 of them by default. You don't have to have 4 of them. You can have 5, 6, you can have 3. You can have a bunch of things. You can take this. You can take the right-hand viewport and say I no longer want it. You can actually close the viewport. All right.
Yes.
And then viewport here, you can say that I want my front viewport bigger. I want the front viewport smaller. How do I reset it?
For view.
For view. If you want to share your space around, you can go in the middle of the viewports. And when you're happy with that viewport, you can even save the layout. So a lot of people like to work like this if they're working on curves. If they're working on geometry, they may not want to. They want to work maybe just with the standard view. So you can move your viewports out. All right. Command again when everything goes wrong is for view. All right. The final thing, and for people with 2 monitors, super duper handy, is you can create another viewport that actually can be floated to a second monitor. All right. If you have 2 monitors, 2 computer monitors, so here we're working on 1. You can't see in my recording that we have one on another monitor on my left hand side. You can create another viewport. Okay, so new floating viewport would be the command. Okay. And you can pick what projection you want. So you can say that I want this to be a perspective viewport. And this viewport can now be moved onto a monitor on another side. So for people that are presenting stuff to customers, they may have one monitor facing them and one monitor facing the customer, and the customer can watch what they're doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's the command? Sorry.
New floating viewport.
New floating viewport.
Okay, so the command is new floating viewport.
Okay. Floating viewport. Yeah.
It's also under your viewport layout tools over there. All right. You can go new viewport, and now you've got 5 viewports in here, but it's no longer a floating viewport. Okay.
Yes.
go back to where we were.
Okay.
Alright, so a quick recap, and I know this is boring for the guys that already know Rhino. So I'm trying to move through the menus logically. You've got the ability to input a command from the menu, you've got the ability to input a command from the command line, or from its icon, assuming you can find its icon, which sometimes can be frustrating, alright? Because there's so many commands in Rhino, they can get lost. Your viewports, by default, there's 4 of them. Controlling your viewports, you can full screen or not full screen them by double clicking the name, and you can change the properties of the viewport by right clicking the name perspective, and you can select your shading mode. So example, ghosted is you can kind of see through it. Right, mine is pink where yours wouldn't be pink because I like to see back faces. We'll get onto that in a minute. And then you've got some fancy nice ones. You've got a pen one, which makes it look like it was drawn on a piece of paper with a pen, and you've sketched the item out. All right. So those you can play with all you want. The ray traced one is actually for rendering, and it can hurt your performance. So I wouldn't work in that, but I will use it when I'm about to render. All right. So ray traced will get to materials in another menu, not the specific menu, in another tutorial, not the specific one. Okay. So you can reset using 4-view. It doesn't change your shading on this view, but it does get your views back. You can close and open new viewports. So you can take this viewport, say I don't want it anymore, and you can close it. You can add another viewport by adding viewport, or from your viewport layout menu, you can pick what kind of layout you want. There's a bunch of little tools in there that let you play with them. And you can reset everything with the word 4-view. And if you've lost items, which can happen, and I'll explain in a second exactly how you lose them while you're scrolling, you can use the shortcut ZEA, Zoom Extends All, which brings everything back. All right, so that's a really handy one for new people who lose stuff. Now, a little bit about zooming in the viewports. Rhino zooms to the mouse. So if I zoom out and I hover my mouse in the perspective viewport over that back corner, and I roll my mouse, you'll see that it's zooming to where my mouse is. And I'm zooming out to where my mouse is. If I hold my mouse over the B and I zoom in, you'll see that it's zooming to my B, now to the tip of the K. All right, so it's context sensitive. It will zoom to what your mouse is hovering over, not just zoom in and out. Okay. So a lot of people lose their item because they just assume, oh, I'm zooming, but it doesn't matter where my mouse is. And if you put your mouse over here, you're zooming to somewhere off in the distance. So when you roll the zoom, notice how your block is going missing, because my mouse is in the top corner.
Yes.
So always remember to hold your mouse over what it is you want to look at. And if you do lose it by doing something like this, my mouse is over there and I zoomed it, where is it? Then I've lost it. Same deal here.
Yeah.
Just ZEA.
Okay.
ZEA brings everything back in your viewport.
Yeah.
Okay.
ZEA or 4-view, which one?
4-view is if you've broken the viewports, like you've accidentally closed this viewport. Okay, so you close this viewport here. Where are we? Close viewport, and you've moved this viewport around. You know, you were trying to present something to a customer, and your viewports aren't normal. So for that, your command is 4-view, brings your viewports back. It doesn't do anything about your zooming, because you may want it to be zoomed into the C to show a customer this thing. But now you want to show the customer the whole job all at one time in all 4 views. So for that, you've got ZEA, zoom, the extents. Extents means the size of everything, and A is all, so zoom extends all. So between those 2 commands, you can quickly reset your Rhino back to where it was. Now we'll get into lesson 4 or 5 on how you can script those commands, make your own icon, or even create a hotkey for them. All right. So input, again, we've covered. Viewports, we've covered. Quite rudimentary. Now let's start talking about what's along the bottom of the screen, and then we'll finish up today with what's on the edge of the screen. All right. So on the bottom of the screen, you've got these funny little snaps over here. Yours may be disabled when you start up Rhino. All right. An object snap is when you're drawing, do you want to snap onto something? All right. So I'm going to get rid of this stuff now. Okay. So you can see in my world, I'm going to turn off these to what you most likely will have on when you first start your Rhino. You've probably got an end and a quad snap turned on. I'm going to make a circle. And I'm going to make a line. and I'm going to turn on that one, and I'm going to turn on end. Okay, we're good there, and I'm going to turn on quad. All right. So what those snaps are doing for you on the bottom over here is when you're drawing, it wants to help you. It's saying, can I help you find this item? Can I help you find the end of an item?
Okay.
Can I help you find the mid of an item? Can I help you find the quad of an item? So I'll do these three today.
Okay.
And then, or do you want to find the intersection of an item, or in the case of a circle, center. So let's turn that on for now.
Okay.
Be aware these are very powerful, but they can also be very frustrating.
Okay.
All right, because you might have two circles and it's trying to snap to the wrong circle.
Okay.
All right. So when you create a new command now, say I want to make another line, I'm going to type the word line.
Okay.
Read the command line saying, where's the start of your line?
Yes.
All right. If I wanted to draw a line from the end of this line here, where my mouse is hovering, it would be extremely difficult to have to zoom in and to find the exact end of the line. All right. So what the O-snap does, it helps me find the end. When the mouse comes closer, it goes, boop.
Okay.
Oh, you're looking for the end of that? You see my mouse is not exactly on it. It doesn't matter. It's snapped. All right. So it's kind of snapped onto the end. So now I can draw a line out from the end of that.
Okay.
And then again, I can find that end, or I can find this end.
Okay.
Or I can find this end.
Yes.
So that's the end of any item.
Yes.
All right. So that's the end O-snap. It just helps you draw, it helps you snap to that item. The mid O-snap does exactly the same thing. It tries to find the middle of something.
Okay.
So this curve has a front end and a back end, but it also has a middle. Boop.
Okay.
So we found the middle of it, and we can draw a curve out from the middle.
Okay.
And we can find the middle of this one, and we can draw out from that.
Okay.
Okay. If you want to snap, let's using these lines. If you wanted to snap 100% square, so perpendicular. So in other words, the two lines are not a little bit skewed to each other. They're exactly 90 degrees to each other. You can turn on perpendicular. Right?
Okay.
You can start a new line. Remember, I can right-click the taskbar and find all the commands I was running today.
Yes.
I can draw a line from here, and I want it to be perpendicular to this. I draw here.
Yes.
And there's my perpendicular point. So the angle over here is exactly 90 degrees.
Okay.
So that's what the O-snaps do. They help you not pull your hair out while you're drawing.
Yes.
All right? I'm going to get there in a second. So the quad O-snap, think of it like a compass. You've got quadrants of a circle. You have a north, a south, a east, and a west.
Yes.
Or you have a 0 degree, a 90 degree, a 180 degree, and a 360 degree.
Yes.
Sorry, 270 degree. They live here. Now for
Yes.
jewelry, this is important because you have bottom of the ring, top of the ring, left-hand side of the ring, right-hand side of the ring.
Yes.
All right. So the quad snap is I want to draw a curve. So this time I'm going to find a line from here. So there's the line. There's a little icon. I don't want this line. I don't want a polyline. I want a single line. So I'm going to tap the little arrow and select the first one, which is single line. All right. So I want to find the exact left-hand side of the circle. I found that quad. All right. I want to find the exact top of the circle. Oops, let me turn off the center. That's why I said it can be frustrating. So I want to find the exact top of the circle. Boop. Oh, there's also an end at the top of the circle. Let me turn off the end. Always catches me in these tutorials. All right, so that quad is the north quad. This quad is your right-hand side, your left-hand side of your ring. This quad is the exact bottom of the ring. All right. So a quad means splitting any circular surface into 4 quads. Quad is quadrant. Okay. So when you're drawing a ring and you want to put a stone on the exact top, let's do that quickly. So I'm going to draw a very, very basic stone at the moment. This is not part of the tutorial, but just to help show you what I mean. All right. Alright, so I'm going to draw a rudimentary stone, and we're going to pretend like we need to lay it out. All right, to explain why the quad is that handy. Okay, so we've got the stone out here, but we need to move the stone to the exact, oh hang on, let's put that on the shaded viewport. We need to move the stone to the exact top middle of the ring. All right, so because it's a solitaire, all right, and the customer wants it up there. So you can grab this stone. One of the commands for moving is you can move an item manually like this, all right, Control Z, or you can run the command move, all right, or there is a shortcut in Rhino because you use it so much, just M and enter. All right.
Okay.
So let's think about how we want to move it. I want to make the bottom point of this, the end of it. I want to get the end of this.
Yes.
Okay. Onto the quad of this. So your way to do this, let's turn off the A snaps for now. Let's disable them for now. You can quickly disable all your O snaps from here like that, right? You could grab this thing and you could move it up, and you could zoom, and you could full screen your viewport, and you can move it down. Am I exactly there? No, you can see I'm not exactly there. But now I haven't got a grab handle anymore, so now I've got to go up and I've got to use my grab handle, and I've got to try to find a zoom. It's frustrating because later on in new lessons, when you try to do booleans and your stuff wasn't exactly touching, you got a problem. Now I went through. It's nearly impossible to do. Okay?
Alright.
So I'm going to Control Z a few times. I'm going to turn on my O snaps. I want to move this item from that end, from the tip of the stone, to the north quadrant of the ring. So I want to have my O snap quad is on. I no longer need perpendicular on. I don't need mid on, but I do need the end and the quads on. All right. Normally, I work with these three on: end, mid, and quad. All right. So you can grab that item. You can press M and enter. It's asking you where do you want to move from. You want to find the end there. Boop. See how the O snap found the end for me of the stone. Boop. I want to move it here until I find the quad. Boop. And click to end the command. Alright. So very quickly now, it doesn't matter how much you zoom, mathematically speaking, this thing is exactly on the end, and you're not going to have problems when you try to do booleans with it. Alright. We're now zoomed in to the point where you're at 0.00, you are at 8 decimals below 1. Alright, so for all intents and purposes, I'm zooming back like crazy. Alright. And then similarly, if you wanted to rotate this, let's say you needed this ring sideways, you need this item exactly sideways on this quad, you can run the command rotate.
Yes.
Look at the command, where you want to rotate around, in this case the center of the world, so you can just type 0 and press enter.
Yes.
Okay. Where do you want to rotate from? From that quad. Let's turn off end for now. I'm going to rotate from that quad to this quad, and you've moved it exactly 90 degrees around the quads. Okay. All right. So this is what these guys do for you, the O snaps. You can also have a point. How am I repeating the command? With the right mouse button.
Okay.
So I don't have to keep going back and say, I want a point, I want a point, I want a point. I can just right click and put another point down. Right. So I can take this item, I can say I want to copy. So you can run the command copy. From which point? Let's turn off the quad for now. I'm going to find the end of that item. Okay. And I want to turn on the point O snap this time. Where are we? Point. I want to copy this item to every point. Boop. Okay. So that's what those little helpers do for you. Right? So they object snaps. They help you object snaps, not snacks. I've got snacks on the mind this morning. Right. So an object snap helps you snap one object onto another object. So it's in the name, O snap. All right. Now you'll notice on the bottom here. So now this menu is kind of out of the way. I'll explain in later lessons what the rest of these snaps do, tangency and that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Just underneath them, you've got another set of snaps down the bottom. You've got another set of commands or icons down the bottom. All right. So the first one is grid snap. If you turn that on or off, your drawing will snap to this grid. In the background, you see this grid of gray lines.
Yes.
If you wanted to draw exactly between them, you can turn on grid snap. We're going to go to the command line. This time we do want a polyline, which just means one line following another line following another line.
Yes.
So we're going to grab that one, and you'll see that my mouse is now snapping to the grid in the background. So when I draw something that's exactly 3 by 3, that's much easier now. Okay? And I want the exact one little gap between them, that's fine. Okay, so that's what a grid snap does. Very handy when you're drawing stuff that has precision that's measured by units. Okay?
Okay.
When that precision needs to be tightened up for this kind of menu, you can go down to Grid Snap, you can right click the word Grid Snap, and you go to the settings for it.
Okay.
Okay? You can say that my snap spacing at the moment is 1 millimeters.
Yes.
So you see there, it's a full snap. When I try to draw, it moves a
Yeah.
full snap. You can say I want to go to every half a millimeter, so to every 0.5 millimeters. All right. Now when I draw that line, you'll see my mouse also snaps in the middle of the.
Oh.
So now I can draw something that's exactly 2.5 millimeters.
Okay.
Okay. For jewelry, this is less useful, I think, in many cases. But sometimes it is still useful. You never know if you there's a reason for it. Ortho is when you're drawing lines. Do you want to snap to an angle when you draw the line? So I'm going to turn off Grid Snap for now. Let's say I want to draw a line 45 degrees to another line. There's many ways to do this in Rhino. Your first one is you draw a line from 0. I'm going to draw that out dead straight. So I just broke my own rule over there. All right. So if you want to draw a dead straight line, right? So you take the line. Where do we want to start? We want to start here.
Okay.
How do you know if that line is dead straight? I want it to be absolutely parallel to the ground plane. So that kind of looks straight.
Yeah.
No, kind of looks straight over there. That's because I'm really good at what I do, right?
Okay.
So I click that line. Is that line level to the ground plane? I have no idea. So I'm going to create another line that is, I'm going to use I'm going to use ortho. All right. Now let's get a dimension from this end to this end. See how that OSNAP helped us? Okay. And another one from this end to this end. Oops. Oh, and I happily drew it exactly straight this time.
Yeah.
But it could have been that I drew it just a little bit off like that.
Okay.
You know, it still looks straight when you're looking on the eye, but by eye, that's very difficult to do. So, back in here, when you need to draw stuff dead straight, while you're drawing, you can hold your Shift key. The Shift key will come look at the ortho command and find out how it's snapping. All right. So when I draw a line, I'm going to start at 0, the middle of the world.
Yes.
And you'll see that it just moves as I move my mouse. If I hold the Shift key down, it'll snap. So the next snap is straight up, the next snap is 45 degrees over, next snap is 45 degrees over. You see, here, if I'm not holding the Shift key, I can move anywhere I want. Hold the Shift key, it snaps it into 45-degree increments. My line has to be straight.
Because we click the
ortho. You can see as I'm pressing the Shift key, see ortho turns on and off.
Right.
Okay, so ortho, similarly, you can set commands for. So I'm just going to escape out of that command. I'm going to go to ortho. I'm going to right-click ortho. I'll go to the settings for it. Currently, its settings are at 45 degrees. So if you wanted a little bit more granular control, you can go 22.5 degrees. Okay.
I get it.
And so when you draw a line now, from 0, not holding Shift, holding Shift. So you're snapping to every 22.5 degrees. So when you're going to draw two lines parallel to each other, draw here, I hold Shift, I'm going to draw it exactly parallel to the ground plane. So I'm not holding Shift.
I get it.
Hold Shift, lock. Okay. Draw another one from there, hold Shift, lock. So those two lines are dead parallel to each other and to the ground plane, right, within 6 decimal places. All right, so going through that again, I'm going to delete those out. So O snaps are for objects snapping onto objects. All right. Grid snap is objects snapping onto the grid.
Yeah.
And ortho is locking how you can move your mouse when the Shift key is depressed. Okay.
Yeah.
So these are what you're going to use the most likely. Okay.
Yes.
I would avoid Smart Track for now. Smart Track is a very handy tool, but it can really confuse your interface. We'll do an advanced lesson on that a little bit later.
Okay.
Gumball is when you move this thing, you see this little gumball here?
Okay.
This little green arrow and the red arrow?
Yes, yes.
It can get in your way when you're doing very, very fine work and you have lots of points and you're trying to find a point here, but the point is just behind the gumball. You can turn the gumball on and off.
Okay.
All right, because you may want to, let's grab the point. What a point. And you see how snaps just tricked me up there. I drew 2 points over each other because my O snaps are on. So I'll draw another point there, and I'll draw another point there, and I'll draw another point there. And now with my gumball on.
Sorry, I forget. What's the O snap?
Okay. O snap is
Yes.
objects snapping onto objects. O snap, object snap.
Okay.
So object snaps you can disable from here. I just clicked the disable button there.
Okay.
So remember, this was end near point.
Yes.
So if I wanted to, my next thing I wanted to be able to snap to a point, I would turn on the point O snap over there.
Okay.
I would draw a line and it would help me find the point. So remember we did mid, quad,
okay.
end earlier?
Yes.
So that's what an O snap is. You
Yes.
can disable it from here, or you can disable it from the little disable button.
Okay.
The reason that's there is because a lot of people work this menu out. They drag the menu out there and they keep it on their screen so they can quickly access their O snaps.
Okay.
All right. If you can't find this menu, you'd be able to turn it on and off there. Right? I like to keep mine docked at the bottom here where it was originally.
Okay.
Most people keep it down the bottom here, or just hide it if they don't use them. All right.
Okay.
So that's snapping onto objects. The grid snap was snapping onto the grid.
Yes.
Ortho was how you draw lines.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Then turning the gumball on and off. So if I escape out of that, you can see that when I've got this selected and I'm trying to move it, I can't select that point anymore. See, I'm trying to get my mouse to select that point, but the gumball's in the way.
Okay.
So you can turn the gumball off while you're working. So you can select that point. You can still move the point around with the mouse. You didn't need the gumball.
Okay.
All right, just the gumball helps you to move stuff a lot easier. So the gumball, if you grab this thing and you grab that little square, you can move it in any direction in this plane.
Okay.
If you grab that line, you can only move it directly sideways or directly up and down.
Okay.
Okay. The little circles are for scaling or for extruding. All right, we're going to get to that in a minute. It comes to modeling.
Okay.
But for now, if you want to move stuff, if you want to move it directly sideways or directly up and down or anywhere.
Okay.
All right, but remembering you don't need the gumball. So if you had all these points, and this becomes really critical when you start doing sub D, when you have all these points down here and you're trying to get them to merge into one point and you can't get to the points because the gumball's in the way, you just quickly snap the gumball off. You can move your points around as you need.
Okay, I get it.
In really tight areas, so that you can finish your job.
Okay,
all right?
okay.
So that's gumball. Let's delete that. All right, then record history we'll get to in another lesson. Very powerful, one of the most useful things in Rhino.
Okay.
All right, so we've covered the menus on the top, the screens, the viewports, how you can access stuff, and what these little items are on the bottom. All right, the ones for today's lesson anyway. Now you go to the far right-hand side of it, and you have a bunch of tools over here. All right, so this one you would know is our internal plugin, the Polygon plugin. You have a bunch of tools over here. One of them over here is to assign render material. So I'm going to make a sphere in the middle of the world. It's not the most well thought out thing. They should have a little rendering thing there instead of just a folder. Okay, but the library contains a lot of stuff. So if you go to a rendered viewport for this, how do we go to a rendered viewport?
Right click.
Right click it. Okay, go to a rendered viewport. You can see at the moment it's got no material. Well, it has a material. It has the most standard material there is. All right, this one, white matte. Okay. So if you wanted to put a metal material on, for example, you go to the metals. And you can look for a polished metal or satin finish metal. I like the satin finish metal, and you just drag and drop that onto the item. And so now it's nice and colorful. Right. So to add or remove menus,
Library,
yeah. So where you can find these, because this is things that are bigger than one tool, and they need their own section. Right? You can turn them on and off by this little gear on the side here. You can say, I don't want to see the library, I don't really use the libraries anymore, so I can turn them off. Or I do really use the libraries, I want to turn them on. Or I like my mesh repair tools all in one place. Or I like, whatever it is you need in one place. All right, so I'll use the grasshopper one a lot. And you've got your help inside here, so you can have a look through these items, what they are. So your next one is layers. Layers is critical. Try not to ever turn it off if you can. Right, we'll get onto how you use layers later, or
Okay.
what layers are used for later on.
Okay.
Then you've got in this case, you've got the properties of every item. So I'll highlight that item. It's giving me the
Yeah.
properties of it. It's a closed curve. It's on this layer. This is what it does.
Okay.
This is a closed surface. It casts shadows. So all the information about this item, all right?
Okay.
Similar to the Rhino command what.
Okay.
And the command what will tell you everything about this item.
Alright.
For most people, not really useful, so you could probably turn it off if you needed to.
Yeah.
You have the material properties of this item inside there, so you can say, I thank you for your gold, but I don't like that specific color of gold. I want to change my color a little bit darker, or whatever it is.
Alright.
And so now my gold's a little bit darker. Alright, so that's the material properties of that. You can also say I want it rougher, or I want it very polished.
Alright.
Okay. Your help is context sensitive. All right. Normally, when you're working on a command, is that our help? Okay. I'll find out where we turn on context sensitive help. Normally, context sensitive help, when you start typing a command,
Yes.
it'll pop up help on that command here. I think because I'm working in my Rhino, there we go. Okay, that just took a while to happen. So normally when you start a command, if you have that open,
Yes.
this particular one, you'll say, oh, you're working with a circle. This is how a circle works. There's even little animations in some of them of how that works. Pick this and move it out. So this is all the help on a command you could ever want. All right. So I'm going to click that there, and you can do the same thing with example rectangles. After you type the command,
Yes.
apparently Rhino is having a bit of an issue at the moment, but normally this would then change to the command you're working on.
Alright. Okay.
See, it's having a bit of a bug, and lots of little animations how to do it. Right? Might be just this release of Rhino is having a problem. Normally, as you hit enter on the command, that will come up.
Alright.
And there's explained how to use the tool. This is for Grasshopper. For now, you don't need to use. How to dock stuff in here or not dock stuff in here is quite easy. If you would know from using a plugin, if you have two screens, you can take the plugin, you can grab it by its name up the top, and you can move it out. And now you can move that off your screen to another screen if you need to maximize your screen space.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
If you want to put it back in, grab it by its name, not the top word rhinoceros. That's its window. You want to grab the toolbar by its name, and you want to move it, and you dock it here, or you could dock it up there, or you can wherever you want to dock it. Right. In this case, you want to dock it here. And then similarly, you can move your stuff to what you need the most. So layers is my second most used thing. I want to move it forward a little bit, and then my libraries are there, so move it back and forward.
Okay, I get it.
All right.
Okay.
So we said I'm going to finish this up with a wedding band, and that will bring us nicely up to the first hour. So I'm going to delete all of this. All right. I'm going to show you a super handy command. All right, and we're going to draw a very, very basic wedding band really quickly. So there's a command in Rhino called picture. If you're using an older Rhino, it's called picture frame. So you run the command picture.
Okay.
All right, and I photographed some pictures before we started this job. They're on my desktop. They're in a folder called Rhino Lesson 1. I literally took just a band I found lying around, and I took some images of it. All right.
Yes.
So I'm going to grab that image.
Yes.
Okay, which is going to be in my right-hand view. And I'm going to draw it out. By default, it snaps to 100% straight, which is great. I don't have a problem with that. Okay.
Sorry.
When you draw the picture, it comes in 100% straight.
What do you mean 100% straight?
Let me turn on my gumball. Not like this.
Okay. You mean, okay. Like
so you can you can rotate it afterwards. It comes in the format of the picture. All right. So I'm going to Control Z there.
Yeah.
So your problem is we want to draw this ring.
Yes.
And you can see that it's got a very fine rim over there. Okay, let's maximize the viewport so we can see what we're doing. Yes. It has a D shape, what we call a D shape. It has a convex surface on the outside. Okay. It's called a D because if you look at a D, look in the command line, capital D, it's flat on the inside and it's kind of shaped like a D.
Okay, you mean here, D shape.
D shape, yeah. So on its side it looks like a D, all right? But we don't know the size. We don't know. Our first problem is a customer always has a finger size. So in this case, I've had a look at the images. So let's go to my desktop and find the images that we captured. Rhino lesson 1, and the customer was in the shop, and I took a measurement, and the measurement on the inside of the customer's fingers was 17.82.
Yes.
So now we want to get this thing to the right size in the Rhino world versus the real world. Okay, so in the real world, that thing's 17.82. When I've dragged it out here now, I can get a dimension tool, a linear dimension from the inside of the finger size there, that edge of the paper, to the inside of the finger size there.
Okay.
And I've got 9.68, which is not 17 point whatever that was. I've got to go open that up again, I guess. My apologies. So we're after 17.82. I'm going to leave that open on the other screen.
Yeah.
All right, so the first thing we want to do is we don't need all this other nonsense. We're going to use a split. So I'm going to draw a rectangle. I can find a rectangle here, remember?
Okay.
I can find a rectangle under the curve menu.
Okay.
Or I can type the word rectangle. Okay?
Yes.
So we're going to use this for cutting. So I'm going to draw a rectangle. I don't need all this other noise in the photo. I just need this section really. So I'm going to draw a rectangle around there. Okay.
This one is just a small, isn't it?
Yeah. Now, just because I didn't have a ring for this lesson, and I went to Alan's desk and took one of his sizing rings. All right. Okay, so I want to get rid of the rest of this photo. So I'm going to take this photo. I'm going to type the word split. I want to split this photo.
Yes.
Okay. We'll go through more in depth of what split does. I want to split it with this curve. And I press enter. So now instead of one surface, I've got two surfaces. Photo. We no longer want that one, so I'm going to get rid of it.
Okay.
And that makes my screen a lot easier to work with. Right? Get rid of all that nonsense. When I took the photo, I rolled up a piece of paper, so I know that it's sitting nicely on the inside of the finger size over there, and nicely on the inside of the finger size over there. We want to get this thing oriented beautifully to Rhino. Okay. So what was a millimeter size? It was 17.82.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to do this the wrong way, but it's going to help cement what we learned today. So I'm going to draw a line. I'm going to draw a line from the middle of the world. The middle of the world is 0. I didn't explain that. So the middle of the world is 0.
Yes.
There's your axis Z, and there's your axis Y in this viewport. There's 1 millimeter up in Z, 2 millimeters up in Z, 3 millimeters up in Z.
Yeah.
Here's 1 millimeter over in Y, minus 1 millimeter over in Y.
Yeah.
So if you want to draw from the exact center of the world, the shortcut in Rhino, just press 0, and it assumes 0 for all axes.
Yes.
And you press enter.
Yes.
So now we're drawing from the center of the world.
Okay.
We want to get the finger size, so I'm going to hold what key to do my dead straight line? Shift key. All right. Now a little trick, because now how do you type in a distance while one hand is on the mouse and the other finger is on the shift key?
Yes.
So while you're drawing, press the tab key. Now you can let go of everything. The orthogonal is locked, so my other hand is no longer on the keyboard. It's waiting me to either click a point or I can type in a distance of this line. What is the distance?
17.82.
17.82 and press enter. Okay.
Alright.
And now I've got a line that's exactly the right inside diameter.
Okay.
The problem is I want my ring over the middle of the world. So how do I get this line from its middle to the center of the world?
Middle.
So I've got to turn on the O snaps.
Okay.
Alright, so let's turn on the O snaps. I want the mid. Turn off the other two. Alright. What's the command to move?
Move.
To move something? Think in English.
Move.
I just said the command. Move.
Yeah,
the command is literally move.
Yeah.
All right. So, or the shortcut is M. M and enter.
M.
All right. So I'm going to grab that item. I want to move it.
Yes.
So I'm going to press.
So you grab item first and then you command.
Well, you can do it either way. You can press M and enter. Then it says, what do you want to move?
Okay.
All right. Or you can grab the item. Then it knows what you want to move, and you press M and enter. It says, where do you want to move it from? Okay. So in this case, we want to move it from the middle of the item, which is there, to the center of the world. How do we find the center of the world?
It's
0 and enter.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So we've moved that thing from its exact middle to the exact center of the world.
Okay.
So I'm going to do that all again. All right. So we want a line that goes from the inside of that ring on both sides, from that point to that point. That's exactly 17.82 millimeters long.
Okay.
All right. So the command to draw a line is
draw a line first. Line.
is line.
Yes.
All right, so literally you want to draw a line.
Yes.
And it
0.
doesn't really matter where you draw the line. You can start the
Okay.
line here. We want to draw a
Okay.
line that's dead straight downwards. How do we do that?
Shift.
Shift.
And then tab.
And then tab to, oopsie, I moved over a little bit with the mouse. And then tab to lock the line.
Okay.
And then I can type in a distance, 17.82. All right.
Yes.
Now I need to get this thing centered in my world.
Yes.
All right, so I want to move it.
Yes, click the line and then move.
Move.
Yes.
Or M and enter.
Yes.
We want to move it from its mid. Okay, if the mid wasn't selected, you wouldn't be able to find a mid. So
yes.
we do select the mid. We want to move it from its mid
and
to the center of the world.
0.
0 and enter.
Yes.
All right, so that's the first thing. So we have one reference point and we have an image.
Yes.
Now we're going to make this image the same size as that reference point.
All right.
Okay. For the designers, you'll see them using this a lot. We want to orient this thing. Like, how do you make something the same as another? So let's say that that was out like that. How do I orient this so that it's facing the same direction? You would kind of straighten it up like that. You're trying to get it dead straight. Now again, you're trying to do this by eye.
Yes.
It's not very precise. So that's why we drew this line. We're going to orient this object onto this line. So we can orient the rotation of it and the size of it. Okay. So take a wild guess what the command is for orienting. What would you think the command is? Let's try the word orient. Guess what? You've got orient. Okay? Even with typos, you've got the word orient. So I want to orient this item. It says create a reference point. Our reference point is here. We find the exact place where the paper touched the ring. Over there. So that's my one reference point. Let's go to the other end of the ring and find the exact as we can, that point. So I've got 2 points to orient from. Where do we want to orient it to? To the end of this, to the end of this. We do want to scale it, yes. We want to scale it in all 3 dimensions. So we're going to make it bigger. Scale means make it bigger or make it smaller. Okay. And we now got a target point. I can't snap on the end. Why can't I snap on the end?
Because you didn't click.
I didn't turn it on. Right. So end.
Yes.
Snap to the end. Notice it's looking for my second point now. Bloop. So now we've done something clever. Now we have an item that's not only the correct size in Rhino, in Rhino and the real world, this item in this photo is now exactly the same size as each other. All right.
But this this ring doesn't have to be the 0 point, isn't it?
It will be. We're going to get to that one next.
Okay.
So we're going to use the orient command again. All right. So I'm going to draw another line. Okay. Let's do this. Let's grab both of these and let's say that we'd already done this over here. Now we've got to move it to the center. So we need to find the dead center of the ring if we can. All right. So I'm going to have to draw a little line to help me with that. I'm going to draw a line from the middle of the line we already have. So thankfully I've got the mid snap on. I'm going to hold shift to lock orthogonally because I want to go directly across. See how we're getting to use all the tools? And I'm going to go as close as I can in the image to the end of that line. All right. So now we have a handy way to get this exactly to the center. If we grab all of these and I type move, because my mid snap is on, I can find the middle of this line, which happens to be in the middle of my ring, and I can press 0. Okay. So now my item is not only centered in all dimensions, it's also the correct size. Right? So little sacrificial curves you can get rid of now. So these little curves over here we can dump. All right. And we can crop this image a little closer if you like. All right. So I'm gonna use a rectangle again because now we know that it's straight. I'm going to go in a little bit closer this time. Okay, I'm going to take that. What's the command to split it?
Split.
Split. All right. So remember, Rhino, most of the time, the command you're looking for is its English name. All right? All right, so we're nearly ready to the point to make a ring. And the actual making of the ring is going to be very, very easy, by the way. Okay. So we need to copy this curvature. We know that there's a straight line here, We know there's a
Okay.
curvature here. We know there's a straight line here, and the inside of the ring is flat between these 2 points.
Okay.
Okay. This side of the photo is not great to work with, so we're going to work on this side of the photo.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to draw the inside of the ring first, which is just a line. Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to come from this edge of the ring. You can see the edge of the paper there, and we're going to
Yes.
hold shift, and we're going to come across here
Yes.
like that. Okay. So that's kind of the inside of the ring for us that we want.
Yes.
All right. Then we're going to draw the little flat edge at a curvature. Now you can see that in the photo the edge is a little bit off, or probably this is just a really rubbish ring.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to draw another flat line from here. I'm going to
Okay.
press shift to lock it and come up to the edge about there. Okay.
Yes.
Now I need to get this line on that side of this curve.
Right.
How do you see yourself in the morning? The opposite version of yourself. When you wake up in the morning and you put your makeup on,
Yeah.
and you need to see yourself,
Mirror.
you look in the mirror.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So same
Okay.
thing. We need to mirror this over to the other side of the ring.
Okay.
All right. We could either mirror it, or again we could do a move. So this time we want to move it, but we also want to leave this here. So you can go Control C and Control V to do a copy,
Okay.
or literally you can run the command copy.
Copy.
All right.
Okay.
Where do we want to move it from? We want to move it from this endpoint
Yes.
to this endpoint.
Okay.
Okay, so now we didn't have to draw another line. We got 2 lines. This line's exactly the same as that line.
All right.
Okay, now we need an arc between these 2 lines. So this thing is called an arc, a curvature.
Okay. Yes.
All right. So this one's a little harder. You can look for arc. All right.
Okay.
But I think the easier like this one, all the arcs are stored in the curve menu down here.
Okay.
Right. So if you're not in the curve menu, you go to your curve tools along the top.
Okay.
You look for the arcs, which are here.
All
Okay.
right. Yes.
And hold the little triangle down.
Yes.
I want an arc that starts from a point, goes to another point, and allows me to change the shape of the arc. So
Yeah,
I want
I
the
get it.
second one here.
Yeah.
Right? The point I want to work from. See why the snaps are so important?
Yes.
I want to go from here
Yes.
to here.
Yes.
And now as I move my mouse, you
Yes.
see I can change the curvature of the arc.
Yes.
So about there is what
Yeah.
we're after.
Okay.
All right, then we have these 2 little lines inside here that I don't know if they're actually a feature of the ring or just poorly manufactured, but let's pretend like it's a feature.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to draw a little line in here. So I'm going to go back to the line menu. Okay, and I'm going to draw one in there, and I'll make a little V inside here, like that. Okay, because I think that's what it looks like. Remember, this is designing. Okay, I need to mirror this across the arc. So I'm going to grab that little line.
Yes.
I'm going to type the command mirror.
Okay. I thought we were going to copy.
Well, you can, but how are you going to copy it by eye? So learn. It's a good way to learn. So you can copy.
Yes.
From where? You can copy it from here, and then you bring it here. But the problem is now it's the wrong shape. See how this one is leaning towards the middle. Now when you copy, this was leaning towards the outside.
What do you mean towards middle?
Okay, so let me do this. Oopsie. Okay, so very important command we forgot. Once you've got this ready, highlight it and type the word lock. When you lock something, you can no longer select it by mistake.
All
right, so we're happy with where that is. If you look at this, let's grab this curve, let's grab its edit points, and let's make it very obvious. So this curve leans inwards toward the middle of the ring, and this side is perpendicular. So if I took this, and I did a copy from here to here, now it's wrong. The ring needs to look the same on both sides. So this thing's facing the wrong direction.
I don't know what this for.
We're going to get there in a sec. So let me finish, and then you can ask the question after. All right?
Okay.
So I'm going to mirror this for now.
Okay.
I can mirror over the middle of the world. I just typed 0. Okay. So I'm going to do it again. Highlight the part. Type the word mirror. What do you want to mirror around? So if you stand in front of your mirror in the morning and you walk backwards, your reflection also walks backwards.
Yes.
Your mirror, the physical mirror, is the center of the world. So we want to mirror this over the center. Luckily, we've got a mid-snap on, which means we can snap over the middle of this. We can snap over the middle of that.
Okay.
Or in most cases, you want to snap over the middle of the world.
Okay.
How do you find the middle of the world?
A 0.
0 and enter.
Yes.
And now when you move your mouse, your mirror is moving over there. You want to snap exactly straight down. How do we lock an orthogonal straight down?
Shift.
Shift. So you lock the orthogonal, you click enter.
Yes.
All right. So we have this little arc over here. Let's grab it. Let's move it in a little bit, like that. Okay. Now, see this line is straight. This line is straight. This line curves outwards a little bit. This line curves outwards a little bit.
Okay.
So they're mirror copies of each other. All right.
Yes.
Now we want to make these all one thing. So I'm going to highlight all of them.
Yes.
And I'm going to run a command called trim.
Trim.
All right.
Okay.
Trim is going to get rid of everything we don't want. Okay. So I don't want this.
Okay.
I don't want this. And I don't want this.
Okay.
And I don't want this. And I don't want this. And I don't want this.
Okay.
Now I can press enter.
Yes.
But my problem is now all of these are all separate things. All right. So we're
Okay.
going to grab them all and we're going to run the join command. Okay.
Yes.
Now they're one item.
Yeah.
And the final command for the day, the one that's going to make the actual ring,
Okay.
is called revolve. We'll do this again very quickly. Revolve. We want this to revolve before I run the command. We want to draw this thing
Yes.
going around like that. We want to make a surface out of this thing revolving around the middle of the world in a full circle and coming back to itself. The command's easier to understand when I just do it. So I'm going to be in this viewport because we want to revolve in this axis.
Okay.
I'll type the word revolve. My center of my axis is, where's the middle of the world?
0.
0 and enter. What do I want to revolve around? This is my axis I want to revolve around. So think about if you're standing straight up and you've got a string with a weight on the end of it and you're swinging it around your head.
Okay.
You are the axis of revolution. The thing is spinning around you.
Yeah.
So the Earth spins around the sun.
Yeah.
All right. But the sun has an axis. So this would be the axis of the sun straight out. I'm going to hold shift to lock the orthogonal.
Yes.
And how far down do we want to rotate? Just press enter twice. Okay. You'll see now. And we just made a ring.
Oh my god.
I'm going to do it again slowly. All right. I'm going to keep all 4 viewports open this time. So you've got this thing we no longer need.
But how did you think, oh, I'm going to start here? I mean...
Well, in the next lesson, we're going to get to planning a job. This might not have worked for some other kind of job.
Okay.
Right? There's 100 ways to do that ring. You could have done it from an extrusion. You could have drawn a circle out here, and you could have maybe offset the circle inwards a little bit, and you could have extruded the circle, and then you could have come in and you could have tried to shape the circle to make the band.
Yes.
But that's not the most efficient way to draw this ring. This ring is very simple because it only has one shape, and the shape is the same everywhere around the ring, and the ring is round. So a good command for this, I'm going to unlock that, so let's hide it. So I'm going to type the word unlock. Remember we locked this item?
Yes, we did.
So the word unlock unlocks it, so we can select it again. For now we no longer need it, so I'm going to delete it, and we have this curve. All right? So shaded, I want this curve to draw a ring around like this. Okay, so multiple ways. Let's draw a circle from 0 and let's bring it out to snap onto the mid of this ring there. So the one command in Rhino is sweep 1. You could grab the curve and you could run the word sweep 1 with that arc and go around, and guess what? Exactly the same result. There's many ways to draw something in Rhino. For me, the most efficient one for this would be revolve. I don't need the circle because I'm going to go exactly around the center of the world. So I'm going to grab that. The command is revolve. My axis of revolution. Let me make this easier for you to understand. So let's say the world is on its side and you have a sphere. Okay, this is the sun in the middle of the world, and here's the earth. And the earth goes around the world like this.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Earth.
Oh, I understand now.
So the axis of revolution is
Yes.
through the middle of the sun here.
Okay.
All right. So this thing is going to revolve around an axis. So this string in the middle
Okay.
is you. This is you,
Okay.
or this is the sun, and there's a string attached to this curvature. All right. So there's a string going from here to this, and we're going to swing it around a head. The command for that is revolve. So we grab the item.
Okay.
We want to revolve this item.
Okay.
Okay. Where's the start of our revolution axis? Here.
Yes.
The end of it
Okay.
is there. Okay. Doesn't really matter. And how far do we want to swing it around our head? Only halfway around our head, you type in 180. All the way around our head,
Okay.
you type in 360.
Okay.
Or maybe only a section. In this case, it's already on 0, which is the same as 360 because the circle starts at 0 and ends at 0. So you just press enter twice, and you've got a ring. Okay, now let's examine the two different ways of doing this. Let's have a look at the geometry here. Okay. Let's draw that circle again. Zero down to the mid. I'll try and find that mid now. Yeah, there we go. If you do the sweep method, right, so grab one curve, sweep one with that.
Yes.
Sweep is messy.
Yes.
You see how nice and clean the geometry is from revolve?
Okay.
These two rings are exactly the same. If I hit the rendered viewport, you can't tell the difference between them.
Yes.
But in computational terms, this one has a lot more things going on. Also a bigger file size. So we'll get into this in depth in an advanced tutorial a little bit later about why one tool is better than another. Both, and you could send this to print now.
I think
and
this
both
one
of them are the
is
same.
easy to understand. This one you have to image.
Right.
Because, you know, this is...
so just a new tool.
This is the side view of a metal.
Yeah.
Yes, just like
Okay, so let's have a look at that from a different perspective. So let's Control Z a few times, and I'll give a final example.
Why you need to draw this line?
I didn't. I did it just.
Okay.
I had no need to draw it at all.
Right. Okay.
So let's say we want to now put a setting on the top of the string.
Yes.
Now have a look at how quickly you can do that with revolve. So I'm going to take a side view over here. I'm going to get a rectangle. I'm going to draw a rectangle like this. I'm going to turn on its edit points by highlighting the item. I'm going to grab those bottom two edit points, I'm going to move them in like this. All right, and grab the whole thing and move it down into the ring like that. And I'm going to run the revolve command. This time, this is my central axis from 0 directly upwards, like that. And I want to go all the way around. And I just made a setting for the ring.
Oh, good.
Try to do that with sweep. It would take forever and the geometry would be really messy. All right?
Okay.
So revolve can do anything, plus also, I will give you, next lesson we'll get into history. All right?
Okay.
So history, quick short version of history is because this was drawn with history, you can do this and you see the setting updated. All right, so I'm going to stop that lesson for today. I'm going to put the recording in the chat. I'd like you to follow along and try to draw this band. Okay? All right, guys, I'll drop this menu in there. I'll drop this video in the chat, and then we're done for today.
Okay.